Good morning and welcome to the January 25th, 2023 City Council meeting. Glad you all are here. We're going to begin with the invocation from Councilman Haney, followed by the pledge. If you'll please stand.
Almighty and everlasting God, grant to us strength of purpose that no selfish passion may hinder us from knowing your will, and no weakness from doing it. God, we pray over this gathering that it would be glorifying to you and that your wisdom would instruct these proceedings. We are humbled to have a voice and that it is not of our own doing and not without your allowance. Grant us your wisdom and protection. Give us your conviction to seek out pathways that bring peace, unity, justice, and love. We pray over this community and we give thanks to you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will begin with the minutes from December the 14th, 2022.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Westbrook, second by Wynn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to come down for some awards. All right, we're going to go to our first zoning item, Z1. Kyle?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning,
First item is a request for a special use permit. This is for 723 Rice Road. The applicant's requesting the special use permit to allow for a one-chair eyelash studio in addition to the single-family home on the property. The adjacent properties to the northeast and west are zoned for single-family and are developed as such. And the properties to the south are zoned PUR, planned unit residential, and are also single-family homes. The property is adjacent to Rice Road, which is classified as a minor arterial in the master street plan. The applicant plans to utilize the house as a portion of the house on the east side for a one-chair eyelash studio. The property has a U-shaped driveway onto Shiloh Road or Rice Road, and the property can accommodate off-street parking for the single-family use as well as the eyelash studio. Like I mentioned, the primary use will remain as single-family, but will also have that special use. In addition to that, which would be limited in nature. This is a one chair, this is one client at a time, and the applicant is here. They can discuss their plan for the property. Of the notices that were sent out, 0 were returned in favor of the request. We did receive 6 in opposition from neighbors in the area. The protest calculation being just over 12%. Generally, those who returned it in opposition were concerned about traffic or additional traffic in the area as well as signage. The property would be limited to 1 square feet of signage, which is the maximum allowed in a single-family district. So this request doesn't change the zoning of the property. It's still single-family. It just allows that additional use on the property. Special use permits are approved for a specific period of time. The term and duration of that time is determined by City Council. The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a 4-2 vote, recommended approval of the special use permit for a 1-year period of time.
Any questions for Kyle? I don't have any cards on this. Cassandra, we don't have any cards down there, do we?
No, sir.
So we don't have anyone here to speak in favor of or in opposition of. So any questions for Kyle, or what's the will?
I know the applicant is here as well, Mayor. If there are any questions.
Do y'all have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion. I move to approve. However, I would like to, instead of a 1-year special use permit, move to approve for 6 months to then reevaluate after 6 months.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion from Haney, second by Westbrook, to approve a special use permit for 6 months. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Z2.
This request is a zone change request from R1A single family to R1B single family. The applicant's requesting the change to be able to adjust the lot lines on the property to allow for the development of an additional single family home. The property is on the north side adjacent to Lamar Street, are currently developed with single family homes. The adjacent properties to the west and south are zoned for and developed as single family. To the east is the location of a church or church uses, and then the north is commercial property. The request is consistent with the future land use guide, identifying it as single family. As you can see here, there's 3 properties. The 2 on the north are currently developed. The one on the south side, to be able to develop the property or to get a final plat to build on the property, it does require the adjustment of the lot lines This zone change this proposed zoning has smaller minimum lot sizes, and so that would allow that to be developed. There is a requirement for an extension of a sewer line in Pacific Avenue on the east side. The applicant is aware of that need, and that will be provided by the applicant in order to develop the property. Of the notices that were sent out, 0 were returned in favor. We did receive 1 in opposition from the neighbor to the south. The protest calculation being 9.43%. The concern from the neighbor is that there'd be additional homes in the area. Like I mentioned, this request would only allow for the additional one house to be built. So the Planning and Zoning Commission, by a 6-0 vote, recommended approval.
Any questions for Kyle? Once again, we have no cards from anyone in favor of or opposed to this item.
Move to approve Z2.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Z3.
This is a zone change request from a single family, or R1D single family, to C1 light commercial district. This is located on Shiloh Road. The property is currently developed with a daycare facility, and it's been used as such prior to annexation into the city. When it was annexed as residential property, but that use hasn't changed. This zone change would bring that property into conformance with the Unified Development Code, and also provide all those other requirements that would come into place, where adjacent to residential property, and it would allow the property to be legal conforming. So the applicant doesn't plan to make any changes that we're aware of to the property. It's just to bring that into conformance with the code. The adjacent properties are zoned on the north side, residential and commercial. They're developed with the commercial and residential uses. To the south and west is currently undeveloped, and then to the east is also undeveloped, but is the location of a common area for Shiloh Village. This request would amend the future land use guide to neighborhood commercial. Like I mentioned, this is along Shiloh Road, which, like Rice Road, is a minor arterial street. And this, as you can see here, the property is currently developed with a commercial use, and they plan to continue that. Of the notices that were sent out, we didn't receive any in favor or in opposition to the request, and the Planning Commission, by a 6-0 vote, recommended approval.
Any questions for Kyle?
No, I move to approve Z3.
Second.
Motion by Westbrook, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Kyle. Cameron.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Morning.
Cameron Williams, traffic engineer for the City of Tyler. So here this morning to talk about adopting a resolution for the city manager to execute an advanced funding agreement with Texas Department of Transportation for 2 highway safety improvement program projects. So just a quick overview, I've been here before talking about the Highway Safety Improvement Program, but this is a federally mandated program that is managed by the Texas Department of Transportation. And the main goal is to significantly reduce traffic fatalities or severe injury accidents. And so we as a staff work closely with the Texas TxDOT local area Tyler District Office to review projects and submit projects. And just as an overview, for projects that we have been approved for from the 2020 and 2021 call, there's really 7 different projects, and the construction cost of those together is about $4.5 million. And there's cost share of that. Of that $4.5 million, the city is roughly responsible for a little over $300,000. So it's a very good opportunity for us to use our city funds to go further and get projects that will help improve the safety of the city of Tyler. With that, I want to give you kind of a brief overview of the 2 projects that the funding agreements will address. The first is retroreflective signal backplates. So these are borders that surround the traffic signal to improve the visibility. So this will touch 106 of our 149 signalized intersections. And they have been shown to show a 15% reduction in accidents at locations where they're installed. And these are considered on-system projects. So what that means is at least one of the roadways at that intersection is a TxDOT, state highway, U.S. highway, or farm-to-market road. And that changes the percentage. So really this program is a 90%, 10% match. And so in this case, since it's an on-system program, that construction cost, that 10% is covered by TxDOT. So we are only responsible for putting together those engineering construction documents for that project. And you can see that in total, it's a little over $1.4 million to cover all of those. The second project is the Grande Boulevard LED curve warning system. So we have talked about the safety improvements that we want to make to the reverse curve that's on Grande Boulevard. This was one of the recommendations that came out of that study. And we were able to work with TxDOT to find some additional funding and through this program to help with the cost of installing those LED chevrons. And so this is an off-system project. It's a city street. So in that case, the 90% from the federal government, 10% of the construction cost, or any overruns of that will be covered by the city in addition to preparing the engineering plans. And so this one is tentatively scheduled to let in August of this year. So you can kind of see some of the estimated costs there. Also, just as an update, we talked about on the Grande reverse curve a couple other improvements. So one was the high friction surface treatment. So yesterday they actually opened bids as part of our asphalt enhancement program. We included that project in there. And so that is moving forward. So I anticipate late spring, early summer, we actually getting that high friction surface treatment on the ground. And then you're looking at probably later in the fall for these LED chevrons. The last improvement that we did talk about on that project was relocating an Encore tower. I just wanted to give you an update on that. The estimates that we got updated from Encore were much more significant than what we had originally budgeted or planned in talking with them initially. And so at this time, we're going to hold off and not move forward with that relocation, get the high friction surface treatment in the place, these LED chevrons, and see those improvements that we get from that. So with that, it is recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the City Manager as a designated representative of the City of Tyler to execute advanced funding agreements with the Texas Department of Transportation for multiple highway safety improvement program projects.
Any questions for Cameron?
I do. Cameron, you mentioned that some U.S. highways are included in this, right? Do you have specifics?
Just off the top of my head, for example, US 69, so
Okay.
South Broadway or up there in the north side of town. So any either US Highway, TxDOT, or Texas Highway, or FM Road that we have a signalized intersection at the City of Texas or at the City of Tyler, we are touching that with those reflective backplates.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Cameron, when y'all begin the high friction asphalt project for that Grande S-curve, about how long do you expect that to take?
So, I mean, it will go fairly quickly, but we will have to do a milling out that existing pavement. And then we're actually going to put down about 2 inches of new pavement that's just regular pavement. That will have to be in place for about 30 days. Okay. Then we'll come back through and do that high friction surface treatment. So there will be several iterations of traffic control in order to get that down and some disruption to traffic while we're doing that as we go through.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Move to approve R1.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Cameron. Good morning, Diego's mom.
She's back.
I'll take that every day. All right. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Council. Today we have brought to you some amendments to our downtown closure application. This comes to you from our Main Street Board for recommended approval from our December 22nd meeting. This has been months in the working. We have worked with our downtown stakeholders, we've done surveys, and really have started to fine tune as we started seeing more development happening downtown, more people are wanting to come downtown, i.e. more events are coming downtown, and we want to make sure we're being proactive to support our downtown brick and mortars And one of the main purposes of our Main Street Board is to look at our ordinances, to assist policy development and so forth. So some of the big changes that we are proposing are just kind of breaking it up into tier levels. Currently, all of our applications, no matter the size, no matter the amount of closures, is only $250 a day for outside organizations, or if they're a downtown business, it's only $100. So what our proposal is to break it up into 3 tiers. As you see here, we break it up in regards of attendance and then also the amount of street closures that they're allowed. So we're proposing that tier 1 remains the same, which is $250 and $100 a day for downtown businesses with a refundable deposit of $1,000. And that goes to if they don't clean up, they don't clean up the parking garages, parking lots, if they fail to do any type of traffic regulations, i.e. barricades or cones that we have to go and support and put those up, or they get damaged. We did have some couple instances where that $1,000 did come into play. And why you see on the next 2 tiers, we've upped that to $3,000 because the amount of equipment that would be possible that we have to lend out and that could be damaged, or also how spread out the trash could be in different parking lots. And the $1,000, why we raised that, the $1,000 did go very quickly with only 2 incidents, so that's why we raised it up to $3,000 for the larger events. And then we proposed for tier 2, which is 300 to 500 attendees, to 450, and still 200, low 200 for the downtown businesses, and then 500 and more, which is tier 3, which is 3,500 per day, and then 1,500 per day for downtown businesses.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
I'm sorry, there's a lot.
3,500, where does that money go to?
So what we're proposing, we're working with PD on that. So once that pot comes to us and we're handling all the applications, we're going to be working with our downtown businesses to facilitate extra promotion. So once they have the event, like say, i.e. one of our big barbecue music festivals come in, let their $3,500 come in. We will utilize that to do some promotion for the downtown businesses that are coming, allow them to possibly get some flyers, get some banners out there to push the traffic that's coming in specifically for this event, to allow them to both be successful in the event and the brick and mortars. So that is our goal with the additional funding that we're asking for the applications. And then the second part of this is also what we've gotten feedback from our stakeholders is the amount of time that they're allowed to close the streets. Given that this is a very large impact on when you close one street in downtown, it ripples and multiple closures because of some of our one-ways that we have. So tier 1, 2, and the smaller portion of tier 3 would be event date only is when they're allowed to close the street. For our larger festivals, which is 1,000 or more, which is typically the music and the barbecue festival that we've had, or the food and the music festival, they would be able to close no early after 6 p.m. This comes from a lot of the work traffic that is looking to leave, but also a majority of information from the county, because they're required to be a functioning courthouse during this time, and typically this is a Thursday or Friday when they're asking for setup dates. It's blocking their ADA requirements, the ramps, the parking spaces, the doors to get into the courthouse. So this was a suggestion not only from the county, but some other stakeholders in our Main Street Board. We are allowing that small portion of Broadway in front of the courthouse to be closed at noon. Because with that small closure, it still allows for traffic to go around the square and exit after 5 for work traffic. So this is the overall breakdown of what you see there is in the square is the amount of closures that are allowed per tier. And so currently, as I stated, the 250 is for any amount of closures, and then it breaks it down to 250 with that first initial square, which is essentially only the square part. The 450, which is the square and the parking spaces adjacent. The 3,500, which is the 500 to 1,000 attendees, is the square, the parking spaces, and the directly adjacent streets, which is Irwin, Ferguson, College, and Broadway. And then you have the larger festivals that we typically see downtown that do a large closure of 1,000 or more, or this is a bigger footprint, which is a block, typically a block off of the square. So you have that entire red blocked off area. And so we look in that square footage wise, typically what you see in our big festivals, we're providing about 255,000 square feet to 350,000 square feet. And so looking at other areas, it's in the city, of the city facility rates, and also other towns that are doing this. They definitely look at impact of businesses, but also the amount of square footage that they're giving. And we think with a lot of these businesses that are coming in that it's a for-profit event. If you break it up, we're really asking, there are about 5,000 to 7,000 people coming to these larger events. We're asking less than $1 per ticket to do these large closures in order to give back to the brick and mortars that are within this downtown boundary area.
So how does this work with the county owning the square?
So what they do, they have a separate reservation that they have to work with the county to reserve it. And so when they come over there, they work strictly with the county, they reserve it, but the parking spaces, the streets are all through me. And so Casey and I work very closely together. When they have someone that comes and asks for the square and they start talking about street closures or whatnot, that's when I get chimed in and I assist them further.
The county is really is only about the square. All logistics and everything then from an event and what happens with that event falls on us.
Okay.
And so notification requirements, we're also adding some clarification in our amendments. Application must follow the standard notification requirements. That's 60 days prior to the event. They have to notify any adjacent businesses that are affected. Tier 2 and Tier 3 must also now host a public open house meeting a minimum of 60 days prior to the event. This is allowing for downtown businesses to come talk directly to the event facilitator. It has helped tremendously, not only getting questions answered, but also finding ways to collaborate and work with the events. And then Tier 3, which is applicants, which are typically the larger events that we see that are doing the major street closures, require a 6-month county and city representative meeting just to ensure that the ADA compliance is happening, the traffic control is into place, given that the large disruption that it is causing to our traffic patterns and our brick and mortars. And this is just to ensure that they are headed in the direction that we need them to by the time 60 days rolls around and the requirement is required. And that is the gist of it. Are there any questions for me?
Probably my only other question would be, has this been vetted with interested parties like the downtown businesses, or?
Yes.
We're not springing this on anybody this.
Correct. We have been working on this for probably about 6 months back and forth, kind of fine-tuning exactly what that looks like. And we took it to the December Main Street Board meeting with some information from the stakeholders, and we did a little pulse survey after each big downtown event that we have, and kind of getting that information all year long. And so, and we've also talked with the actual event facilitators that are proposing events that are our normal ones, and letting them know that this is coming up. So it's not going to be blindsided of the events or the stakeholders.
So did the Tier 3 event group, did they kind of, for setting up, they have the big stages, is it going to allow them enough time to get their stages and all the electronics for the concerts?
So we used to not allow them to do day before closures, and they made it happen.
Okay.
And we got a little lax the past couple years with stretching it out, and so we believe that they're able to do this. They're just going to have to work a little longer, maybe.
Well, some of the issues we were running into, and this is what the county brought to our attention, was as the stages were being set up, especially on Broadway, kind of now they like to do it at the intersection of Broadway and Irwin, is they're blocking off the handicap parking for the courthouse. And with one of the last events, Judge Franklin was there, and we were able to go out there and kind of work it out, because there was a generator that was placed in some of the handicap parking. But the judges over there especially have been kind of getting irritated with this, and rightly so. Again, you're blocking off handicap parking that's for the accessibility of the courthouse as people are being called there. So this kind of gets to where we're trying to protect the parking over the courthouse. As the new courthouse gets built and everything, there may be some changes to it. One of the issues, though, and this is where a lot of our downtown business owners have been so favorable towards the direction that Amber's pushing on this one, is after every successful event, after Red Dirt comes in May, there'll be a number of different groups that go, wow, that was really a great event. I can do this. And I'll bring in thousands of people. And they won't. They'll bring in probably 300 or less. So now you're actually putting a price point on that to start to pinch them to say, oh, so this is your first time event. How many people do you think you're going to have? And they say, well, I'm going to have more than 1,000 people. Okay, we're going to need to spend $3,500. I go, I guess it probably was, I'll probably have 300 or less. And then that reduces the impact on the downtown businesses, because especially your restaurants and some of the others over there, the offices, were having difficulty with, especially as you look at the blue, having that tier 3 blocked off when nothing's going on. And people were paying and having their event, but nobody was coming to their event, and now they are put out of the opportunity for people to be able to get to their businesses easily, to be able to dine and to go to offices, get legal advice, that kind of stuff. And so that's where the price point starts to help kind of put this into play.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So does this involve large events and not maybe events like, I will use this as an example, the Martin Luther King March, that kind of event, those small nonprofit people that may have an event on the square only for a short period of time?
Correct. So on the event, on the square only is through county. So that's a free reservation. They simply just reserve that.
Right.
And a parade is a different application. This is strictly just closing down streets, where parades are a temporary block of intersections.
Okay.
So we're not doing that.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I can see the need in increasing the fee to hold a large event, but $250 to $3,500 seems like quite a jump. And where I'm coming from is the Restaurant Association group was engaged in the Rose City Music Fest and also Taste. And how that event was organized is all of the restaurants were asked around the square to participate, and it was a situation where the event benefited the nonprofit, which was the Restaurant Foundation, that portion of the event. I'm not for sure what the concert venue supported, but how they structured their contribution to the nonprofit was they made a $25,000 contribution. And so for the fee to go up at that amount, I can see that would also have a chance to negatively impact the contribution that they're going to be able to make to the nonprofit. Now, whether the entire event was a nonprofit event or not, I don't know, but you had said, Amber, and I'm making a long comment now for the question, you did engage Town Square. They were the ones that held the Rose City Music Fest and also Red Dirt.
Yes.
And they had input
So I talked
this
with, yeah, so I
fee
was
structure.
able to talk with them, and so they, they weren't happy about the increase, but they understood. And with our direction, because our overall goal is to have success for the event and for our downtown restaurants that are closed for that entire day. Because that's a big thing that are part of the survey responses that we got from them, is that they don't mind being closed, but if it's for a for-profit event that is getting money and hindering their revenues during that day, then that's kind of where we wanted to come in and find that middle ground where they're still able to make money as a for-profit event, but also we're able to have some funding to allow for promotional efforts. And we believe that the $3,500, again, when you're looking at Rose Festival or you're looking at Red Dirt, where they're bringing in 7,000 guests, we thought 50 cents, per ticket wasn't going to really detriment the end result of their bottom line. We understand it's a very big jump, but realistically, $250 a day for 255,000 square feet of venue space.
Oh, sure. No.
It is way below. Like I said, just looking at fees we had throughout just City of Tyler venues. that have no impact on any additional businesses are way below that, or way above that cost on how much we're giving per square feet.
And we're talking maybe 3-4 events a year?
Correct, yes. And we do try to limit to these big ones about 3 to 4 a year. And that's really, it's been the ones that have been standard for the past couple of years. Most ones that we do see are the tier 1 or tier 2, which are the very minimal jumps.
And that's, I think, a very important piece, because in our convert kind of is a, it is that thriving of downtown, wanting to see different festivals, events occurring down here at the same time your businesses. And so in those negotiations back and forth of where is that medium, that kind of that 4 or so events, large events a year, seems to be the piece that our businesses that are downtown can be able to, endure without actually starting to really cause serious difficulties with, and kind of really helps still promote downtown. And these would be for the big events, not for the stuff that's either that tier 1 or tier 2 even that you sometimes see on the square.
Amber, the question I have, the 3,500, does that get put into a pot and then, or a certain account, and then you spend the full 3,500 on advertising for the certain businesses? And what happens if you don't spend the full 3,500? Where do those funds go? And then what businesses qualify to be able to get that advertising for the 3,500?
Yeah, so it would go into an account that we're working on establishing, and it would be one, if we'll try our very best to spend all that application fee on that event for the downtown businesses. If it doesn't, it would remain in that pot for additional year-long advertisement. Excuse me. And then regarding who's available, it's anyone within our downtown area, the DPAC area.
Now, they had to pay for security for different events, so they're paying for the police or security separately. For like all barricades and everything we put up, are they paying for that, or is that part of the fee?
So yes, so city no longer does larger events, barricades. They are responsible for that. That's when, if they fail to do it properly, that's when the city steps in and corrects. I had an incident in the past couple ones that the city had to step in, but for the most part, we do require that the event itself purchases the barricades and the cones that are needed in the detour signs.
So where did the 3,500 figure come from? Is that, how was that vetted? Is that what other communities, is this?
So kind of looked at the recent fee structures that you guys approved for the Rose Complex, looking at the square footage of that. I know the amenities are a little bit different. It's different animals, like here in Apples and Oranges, it's really hard to find specifically what's happening here, because there's a lot of other towns that are doing this, but they don't have such a blockage like we do because of some of our one-way streets and how our square grid system is set up. So realistic, kind of looked at, again, back at the ticket, how many people were coming to this event, where it was the $5,000 to $7,000, and looking at the roughly hard impact, and like I said, 50 cents per ticket really is not going to be a bottom hard line that is deterrent. And also the amount of square footage that they're getting within this boundary area.
And like Shirley was saying, this doesn't affect JC parades, MLK, nothing like that.
This is really what you're looking at. The hard impact is these larger 3 to 4 business events that we have that completely close downtown.
Amber, Ed gave an example of an event that was potentially overestimating how many people they would have come, and this would obviously incentivize them to be more realistic. Are you concerned? Is there any concern that somebody may intentionally underestimate, especially between the 2 and the 3 ranking, to say, oh, I think there'll be 400 people and 800 people show up? Is that to avoid? That's a big step in fee.
So when that comes, when the fee, you also see the amount of area they get.
Right.
And,
so they wouldn't want to do that anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
And I know when they start working, depending on how far they get into the street closure, they do work with fire and they do work with police, and they give them a threshold of the capacity that they're allowed to.
Okay.
The fire marshal establishes what their occupancy can be, how many tickets they can sell. dictates the size of the exits, emergency exits.
So they'd be
and
penalizing
so on.
themselves doing
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Right.
They would be restricted on what they could sell. Is this something that we would look at again, or can we?
I imagine we will look
review
at it again once you kind of have the revisions done to the square. So when you start really kind of making it to where you have, based on what the county's plans are, and what our initial designs we had from Tool Design, which will come back to you all in February for further kind of taking out for planning purposes. Once you have that kind of larger area there, you may have the opportunity to have greater discussion and even kind of rework this a little bit. And so, yes, I see it. It's kind of at probably in about 24 months or so, based upon what the judges told me on the kind of their schedule for the courthouse. So you may have some. It won't. The new square won't be built for 24 months, but we may be. That's going to be the earliest. You might be able to come back and start saying, okay, let's look at what it could be for any changes.
Yes, and so the trend is about
And you can
every
also,
two. Sorry, go ahead.
and you can also revise it at any point. If all of a sudden you find that, oh no, this is too low for the bigger group or for the smaller groups, or too high for the bigger groups, that request can always kind of come back in and around.
Yes, and we typically, what our trend is so far, about every 2 years, we bring amendments to this after getting some data pulling from events and talking with stakeholders. And of course, if all goes to plan and when the new square is developed, you'll see a lot of reduction of the amount of impact for the street closures. And so it's going to be reduced back because there's not going to be that heavy impact in closing downtown businesses, because we'll have 2 green squares. We'll be able to close part of Broadway and still for functioning traffic routes throughout the county. So you'll definitely see a difference in a couple of years once the square is complete.
The 3,500, I guess I'm slow. You say that it'll go towards advertising for the brick and mortars that are down, like Prime 102, Rick's, Andy's. I mean, what does it mean?
We'll downtown probably, right?
Yes, so we'll do some paid advertisement through social media. They'll allow them to do banners. We did a little bit, Visit Tyler kind of tested that out. They put a big banner over their business right by the gate, the fencing from some of the festivals, to attract people, to let them know that they're open, allow them to come through. So we would allow businesses to do that type of printing flyers of talking about what's open around the area, being able to give those to attendees. So any type of marketing, we actually have a downtown discussion group of our quarterly downtown stakeholders at the end of this month, where I'm going to bring this back up and get some solidified ideas of what would best benefit them. But so far, those are the discussion items that we've had.
Don't get tied to the fact that we won't be advertising individual businesses like, here's an ad in the paper to come eat at this restaurant. It is really about downtown. It may be a group of restaurants or businesses that are going to be open on this day, and Amber used the analogy the example from Red Dirt of where they had, as far as the ability to incorporate some of the stuff that was going over there in Plaza Tower with the Red Dirt Festival, so people could be able to migrate between the two. And so some of that being able to try to help set up is going to be there.
So regardless of the event, downtown is still open.
Yes.
So that's basically the message.
Because right now, unfortunately, sometimes the perception is there's a big fence around the square, downtown is closed, don't come downtown. And that was part of the conversation with some of the stakeholders, that as we promote that, be careful, these streets are closed, a lot of people perceive that since the streets are closed, the businesses are closed. And that's what we want to work on, also promoting that they are open.
So at the end of the day, the goal is to make this better for Prime 102, Don Juan's on the Square, Rick's.
Correct, because right now some of them are just closing because of the perception. So we want to make sure we're doing the best of our ability as stewards of downtown to promote both the business and the event.
Well, I don't want to make it onerous on staff, but I make a motion that we approve it with the caveat that it'll be reviewed in 1 year so that we can evaluate. And I think that's enough time to at least get the temperature of the cycle of the year of the events that are going to take place down there.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion by Westbrook, second by Haney to approve it to be reviewed in a year.
In 1 year, yes, sir.
Okay. Any
And
further-
that's where the updating and clarifying will come into play. I see those two words there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does that motion make sense? Deborah?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Amber, thank you.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Kate, M1.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right. Good morning, Mayor and Council. The item before you, M1, is an engineering contract amendment for the Golden Road Water Treatment Plant, filters 11 through 14 rehab. So just as some background, last year in September, the City Council, you all approved a contract in this amount to KSA for replacement of the filters filters 11 through 14 at Golden Road. Now, in November of last year, we were bringing down the clarifiers and different treatment processes for the annual maintenance that we do. They were drained, and it was observed that clarifiers 3 and 4, we have 4 total at Golden Road, were in an extremely deteriorated condition, and I'll show you pictures in just a second. All of those clarifiers have been and were scheduled to be replaced in fiscal year 2027 as part of a compliance plan with the TCEQ. But 3 and 4 were found to be in such bad condition, we're not able to repair the steel in it anymore. It was in need of immediate attention. So the estimated construction on these clarifiers and filters would then begin in October 1st of 2024, and that's just based on demand schedules and how we can sequence the construction. So, I'm going to skip through that. But here are the pictures. So you can see the structural steel in the clarifier itself is corroded. We have been able to, over the decades, repair that steel, but it's gotten to the point where it's so thin that it needs to be replaced. So 3 and 4, 1 and 2 are in better condition, and they will hold out until 27, but 3 and 4 needs to go ahead and be done. So I'm asking you today that you consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract amendment in the amount of $309,600 with KSA for additional services related to the Golden Road Water Treatment Plant filters 11 through 14 rehab project.
Any questions for Kate?
Move to approve M1.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. M2.
Okay, M2 is a developer city participation agreement for a sanitary sewer extension at the Grande 2151 edition. The Grande 2151 edition, also known as Grande Villas, is a development located between, it's on East Grande between Biloxi and Roans Porter. And when Grande was originally constructed, sanitary sewer was included in the roadway as a utility, but it was capped, so it's not in service currently. But that was looking to the future. So now that we're developing out in this area, Grande would be extending sewer through their site, or the Grande 2151 is extending sewer through their site down to Roy Road, and that's where their connection point is. There is a manhole along Grande on the northeast side of the site that is actually the low point for the system in Grande Road, which is currently not connected to anything. And so what the developer did was come and talk to us about, well, if we can go ahead and connect this manhole up on Grande, we're going to be able to open up 32 acres of commercial development area that otherwise, if we don't do this, it would not be available. We wouldn't have sewer available to the site. So this was important. They brought it to us, and what they did is they did a proportionality analysis. We reviewed it and accepted it. Their development requires an 8-inch sanitary sewer through the development. But portions of that, because that manhole that's on Grande that's already in place was a lower grade manhole, portions of the sewer through the development had to be lowered and a manhole had to be added to make so that we could make that connection and flow by gravity all the way through. So that's what this 16.7% is. That is the cost of lowering those portions of that sewer line through the development. So the total project cost was $418,820.50. Our participation in this, which is 16.7%, is the $70,214.37. And Section 1911 of our city ordinance allows Tyler Water Utilities to participate in certain projects that kind of look to the future in this way. So I'm requesting that the City Council consider authorizing the city manager to execute a developer city participation agreement that authorizes Tyler Water Utilities to participate in a project that will provide sanitary sewer service to a portion of East Grande Boulevard that is not currently served.
Who's the developer?
Leonard McMillan.
All right, any questions for Kate?
Kate, you said lower grade. I just want, for everybody that's watching to be aware that when you say lower grade, you're not talking about quality, you're talking about lowering the elevation.
Correct, sir. Yes, yes. Lower in elevation, yeah.
Here comes the attorney in Stewart.
It is superb sewer.
All right, any other questions?
I know there's a lot of people watching, so clarify that for everybody.
I move to approve in 2.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by McKellar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. M3.
Okay, M3 is a material bid award for the John Souls Food Waterline Extension contract for various valves. So, again, last year in April, you approved an engineering contract with Brannan for the John Souls Foods Waterline Extension project. That's about 12,000 linear feet of 16-inch water line that's routing its way up from Broadway and Blue over to the John Souls Food plant. So right now, Brannan, the design is near complete, easement acquisition is nearly complete, but when we were looking at that, the lead time for some of these valves has been 15 to 18 weeks. So that's an exceptionally large lead time. So in doing this, we thought about, well, we could do a material bid where we're just buying the materials for the valves themselves, so we can try and stick to the schedule of having John Souls Foods our water online to them by the end of this year. And that's what our schedule is that we're trying to meet. So this is going to assist us in that. So we opened bids on January 10th of this year. The sole bidder was Ferguson Waterworks. The total bid was $99,972, and it was for 15 different types of valves that would be required for the construction of this project. So my request is that the City Council consider authorizing the City Manager to award bid number 23020 in the amount of $99,972 to Ferguson Waterworks for various valves for the John Souls Food Waterline Extension project.
Can you go back to the aerial?
Yeah.
Right to the left of where it says 12,000 feet, it says City of Tyler. Is that City of Tyler? What is that?
Oh, okay. That says City of Tyler CCN. So it's just, yeah, that's just saying that that's all within our certificate of convenience and necessity, which means that we can serve water there.
Okay. Thought y'all found some property.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Not flat. All right, any questions for Kate?
No, I'd say whoever caught that at this stage should get a gold star, because that's pretty good. I move to approve M3.
Second.
Got a motion by Curtis, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, we're down to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Westbrook, second by Wynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A few items of note. First of which, we had as far as the groundbreaking for the University of Texas Medical School here in Tyler. this week. And just to kind of, all the excitement with that, and rightly so, just kind of give you all a little bit behind the scenes then of kind of what comes next from the city's perspective and how we work with it. We actually started meeting with the University of Texas System staff and our staff from engineering, utilities, development services, fire marshal, GIS, and inspections to start going over the new medical school development schedule and then how that was going to move forward. And so with that pre-development meeting, we reviewed their site plans for the medical school and parking garages on their sites east of Beckham and south of the UT Health Hospital facilities. They're intending to start construction in summer of 2023 and be completed and operational in summer of 2025. And so most of the impact that we will be working with them on, it will be on our city streets and drainage and utilities, which will be part of some of the first work that you'll be seeing done in that area this year. And so we're very excited about that, and our staff was ready to help and work them through any of the processes as they saw fit. And in fact, they were also very just gracious in the outpouring that we gave and the support that we're giving them in getting that medical school up and running. Secondly, the Tyler Trees Committee and Urban Forestry Division hosted their annual Arbor Day celebration this past Saturday. We had about 170 people come together to plant 120 trees at Fun Forest Park in the Senior Center. A special thank you to the mayor and council members Wynn, Haney, Curtis, and McKellar for their support in helping us with that planting. And so I know that there was a team of 3 or 4 of the council members that were walking around making sure they got their stuff done early, and we're making sure, hey, you need any help? You need any help? And so good job.
We planted 10 trees before Ed got one in the ground.
I think we had multiple ones. We were actually working on another group's even zone because we had done all the trees in our zone.
Yeah, we actually walked up on Ed planting a tree, and he was sitting on the ground Indian style with a shovel. And I'm not sure how you plant a tree sitting Indian style.
I think one of the arborists came by and said, "That's the best I've ever seen somebody sit down next to a tree and make sure all the dirt was just settled just correctly." So,
which is why we had 10 in the ground before he had one.
It's quality, not quantity.
All right. Any questions or comments to the city manager?
Actually, I have 2 more items, but that's okay. So, the city of Tyler.
Oh, you had more?
2022. Yes.
I thought you were done.
Well, you only hope that maybe. The City of 2022 annual United Way campaign was a great success, and we want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who donated. We actually surpassed our donations from last year. Last year, the final donations came in at $23,929. This year, we hit $24,570 from our employees. And that's going to help so many people here in Smith County. And so we want to thank everyone contributing to this year's success. And then finally, we also want to make sure we recognize Tyler PD Detective April Maloney. There we go. Maloney. Yeah. She was one of 6 women recognized as Women Who Respond. This year's theme recognizes women in education, healthcare, and first responders. And so April was the first Hispanic female detective at the Tyler Police Department and was named Officer of the Year for the Tyler Police Department. She hopes to end the underreporting of crime in the Hispanic community. "I really care about the people here," said April, "and I want to continue bettering the community." And so congratulations on the well-deserved recognition, and we're all extremely proud of it.
All right. Now, does anyone have any comments or questions for the city manager before we adjourn? Put him on the spot? No?
Move to adjourn.
All right. We are adjourned.